Welcome to this candidate forum for the Marin Municipal Water District Division 4, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County. I am Nancy Bell of the League of Women Voters of Marin County, and I will be your moderator. With me as timekeeper is League member Robin Dietrich. The two candidates here with us today are running for one seat for the Marin Municipal Water District Division 4. They are Cynthia Kohler and Joby Tapia. Each candidate has been invited to make a 3-minute opening statement. We will begin with Cynthia.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this debate. I was first recruited to run for the Marin Municipal Water District Board in 2004 by my friend Jared Huffman, while I was taking a sabbatical from my position as the legal director of Save the Bay and a long career as an environmental attorney and water advocate. In the 14 years since, I have been honored to serve Marin County on the MMWD board. I think it is a testament to the strength of my accomplishments and leadership that I have been endorsed by all 5 of Marin County supervisors, the Marin Democratic Party, the Sierra Club, the Marin Professional Firefighters, and numerous city council members and community leaders, as well as now U.S. Representative Jared Huffman. I'm very proud of my accomplishments during my time on the MMWD board, and in particular, our shift from focusing on expensive new infrastructure to water use efficiency. We have saved Marin County millions while making our community more resilient in the face of climate change and increasing droughts. We are on track we've put ourselves on a better track financially. We have very strong bond ratings. Our cost of debt is low, and we have kept, even as we have increased our investments, we have kept our rates well below the pace of inflation. Our water is among the healthiest and cleanest in all of California, and certainly the tastiest. At a penny a gallon, Marin Municipal's water is a bargain, and our rates are lower than those of most water agencies in the Bay Area. I'm also proud of our increased focus on watershed health and safety. We have been focused like a laser on addressing fire risk, and we have built very strong and important partnerships with our local firefighters as well as our sister land management agencies on Mount Tam. We are collaborating in partnerships to bring money and resources from outside to protect our watershed, and those partnerships will remain in place for many years to come. My husband and I have raised our boys in this community. We hike on the watershed and hang out in the hills, and we love being here. I have been honored to serve as your MMWD representative, and I look forward to continuing to do so. I ask for your support and your vote, because Marin deserves a water expert.
Thank you. Joby.
Thank you again for hosting us. I appreciate the League of Women Voters inviting us to debate the issues and to talk about various issues that face our county. The reason I run is not that the board is doing a particularly bad job. I think that they've done an effective job over the last few years of delivering clean water. My concern more goes towards the future. As a longtime resident of the side of Mount Tam, I have seen the dangers of wildfires from the North Bay start to promulgate through lack of fire fuel control on the side of the mountain. I lived right near the Edgewood Reservoir that went off like a tinderbox not too long ago, and it was only after that that the concerns were met to reduce the fire load. With that, I watched the rate increases year after year, where we've seen almost a 35% increase over the last 4 years of rates to the water payers, even in the face of declining usage. One of the things that has not seemed to change is the operational cost and the financing cost to carry forward the normal operations of the Marin Municipal Water District. Having worked in real estate for nearly 20 years, run hundreds of millions of dollars of assets, overseen hundreds of employees, I like to focus like a laser on where the costs are going and how we can best move around our resources so that we can maintain our infrastructure as well as pay our employees a fair wage. But also, we need to recognize the fact that we may have redundant positions, and we also may have opportunities to reduce headcount where appropriate, but also expand where necessary. So as a resident of Marin, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to go through my background. I just want to thank you for your support and consideration for the vote.
Thank you. And now for the questions. The candidates will each have 1.5 minutes to answer. To be fair, I will rotate the order in which they respond to the questions. So we will begin with Joby. So our first question, the district needs to hire a new general manager. What qualities should they be looking for?
Well, I believe that the qualities of a general manager need to be fairly expansive. You'll need to have somebody who has some sort of water experience by virtue of the fact that it is an agency that oversees water. But on top of that, you'll need to have somebody who's an organizational expert. A good manager will hire good managers below them and get out of the way and allow them to do a good job. So the ideal candidate will be somebody who's got a very good experience and track record in running a large organization that can maintain budgets, seek operational efficiencies, and move the district forward in the face of climate change and increasing costs.
Thank you. Cynthia.
We are in the middle of hiring a GM, and I'm pleased to say, without giving away any secrets, that we have a very strong base of candidates, and something I've given a great deal of thought to. This is the second time we've hired a GM since my time on the board. There's a lot of people who feel, oh, you need a water engineer, you need a finance person. We've had both, and they have both had their strengths. My feeling, having been through this process, is that what we really need is somebody with vision, with the strength of leadership, and the capacity to lead a large organization while keeping track of our finances, our operations, and everything else. Our current GM, I can't say enough about. We're sorry to lose Krishna. And what he has brought to the district is what I am looking for in our next general manager. And that is that he's able to relate to a broad staff. He is internally facing, but he's also outwardly facing. He's able to be part of the community. He understands that part of his job is to bring a vision and leadership in working with the board to provide the best possible stewardship of these resources for the community. I think in addition, we're looking for a general manager who has the capacity to communicate with the community, with our ratepayers, with our leaders in an important way. They are, in many ways, the face of the organization even more than the board. And so we will be looking for that kind of vision, leadership, and capacity to communicate in the next general manager, and I'm confident we will find that.
Thank you. Water efficiency came up with opening statements, so let's talk a little bit more about that. And let's start with you, Cynthia. In regards to what measures would you support to increase water efficiency programs with the department as well as with customers?
Sure. Nancy has touched on my favorite subject. I work on water use efficiency in my private business as well. Marin Municipal has, in the time that I've been on the board, really become a state leader in water use efficiency. We have actually decreased our use of water from the time I was on the board, which again has saved us tens of millions of dollars. We can continue to move in this direction. We have the things that are the most important are to engage our consumers, 95% of which are residential users, but also our businesses. There are any number of rebate programs that we can be moving in the direction of. And in addition, what's been very effective has been having our staff go out for free and conduct audits for homes and residences. That's been one of the most effective tools that we have. I firmly believe that distributed infrastructure, and by that I mean water use efficiency measures for outdoor use, indoor use, commercial, industrial, and institutional use are the future of California and Marin in terms of making us even more climate resilient. So I'd like to see rebates for gray water to really move to the next level. Gray water, cisterns, outdoor irrigation, and we really should be moving towards a cash for grass program. And those are among the initiatives that I would like to see us moving towards in the next few years.
Thank you. Joby?
Yes, thank you. So you've touched up on a subject that is very near and dear to my heart as well. Having run hundreds of, if not thousands of apartments in the Bay Area, one of the things that I always sought to do was reduce our water spend. One of the ways that we would do that is we would seek to increase our deployment of efficient appliances throughout the apartment complexes, as well as changing shower heads, increase the use of recycled water for landscaping. One of the things I think that would be most helpful on a go-forward basis is we need to work with our local agencies to integrate into building code on all new buildings that there are increased efficiency measures from single-family homes to multifamily homes. use of cisterns for rainwater collection, use of gray water and recycled water, and most importantly, on the larger multifamily units and multi-unit buildings, would be to put individual water meters instead of master meters. I find that when users know exactly how much they pay rather than have it estimated, they tend to be very, very efficient with their use.
Thank you. So, Joby, you're going to start the next question, and you mentioned in your opening statements concerns about wildfires and particularly the fuel. So, the public has opposed plans to do controlled burns on the watershed to reduce its flammable brush load. Should it do controlled burns even so?
So, this is a touchy subject that really is more of a communication issue than an environmental issue. Not being an expert in whether controlled burns work or not is something that I would want to be very, very sure about if I was to answer a question about whether and when to do it. However, if it's seen by the Forestry Service as a good plan to help reduce the fuel load, the communication path to our rate users needs to be much, much better as far as explaining why, when, how, where, and to what benefit they will do, and to really discuss the safety measures that will be involved in these controlled burns.
Thank you. Cynthia.
I think I disagree with Joby that this is a communications issue. Marin has considered control burns on and off over the years. We have invested millions of dollars. It's one of the things I'm proudest of, $100 million over the last 10 years in various fire reduction and mitigation measures in partnership with the Marin firefighters. And controlled burns have been on and off the table for a long time. We are actually now currently considering controlled burns as a possibility. The challenges with that are that controlled really is the operative word. It's hard to control burns. So we are in the process of exploring the extent to which controlled burns could be an option for the district going forward in the next year or so. So I think the issue is less communicating with the public and more ensuring that we use that tool judiciously, carefully, and in full cooperation with our local firefighters. I do think we have many other options that all must be and have been put to regular use. We are constantly clearing seedlings and saplings to make fire breaks. We are in constant communication with PG&E to eliminate hazards near power lines. And again, we have increased our budget, which was already fairly robust, by another $400,000 for the next 5 years to do even more in terms of vegetation management. So I think controlled burns are an option, and I think when it comes to that, we are fully capable of communicating with our public as we have about all other issues.
Thank you. So Cynthia, the district has the most infrastructure in the county, much of which is underground. How well is it being maintained?
I would say it is being pretty well maintained. We have a very aggressive capital budget, right around $20 million a year. We have a long-term capital plan that we have been doggedly implementing. Turning again to fire, we have a separate source of funds, as many people may know, in the county's fire flow program. So that's an additional source of funding for capital. I think that the district has done a very good job of continuing, of laying out what the program is for addressing aging infrastructure. Not only do we have the most infrastructure, we have the oldest. Marin Municipal is the oldest municipal water district in the state. And some of our cast iron pipes are more than 100 years old or 70 years old. So we are plowing through our list of things that need to be done. In the time since I have been on the board, we have replaced almost every single redwood tank. We're on track to finish up that project within the next couple of years, replacing them all with steel. We've also invested tens of millions of dollars in upgrading the treatment plant at San Geronimo so that in the event of a catastrophic earthquake, it will be well prepared. So we have completed the first phase of that project and we'll be continuing to invest in that infrastructure as well. Nancy, you make a good point about our infrastructure often being underground and out of sight, but we have strong community relationships and we've got a terrific set of staff that work closely with communities when we are going to address pipe issues, especially on busy streets and roads. And I'm confident that we will continue to do what we need to do to address our aging infrastructure.
Thank you. Joby.
How well it's maintained is something that is a question that I'm ill-equipped to answer because I don't see inside of the operations of MMWD, nor do I see the actual expenditures until after it's published in the annual budget. My hope is with the amount of the money that's being spent is that it is being well maintained, that we are replacing aging infrastructure. We need to do as much as we can to ensure that we are delivering the water in a safe and effective manner. But we do need to watch the numbers. At the end of the day, the ratepayers are going to pay for the operational cost and the infrastructure. We need to communicate very well to them about what these costs are. With the increase in the rates while decreasing usage, we have people that are questioning why they're paying more for less. We need to get the word out of what these costs entail and then ensure that we have enough funding to complete the work.
Thank you. So, Joby, while we're on the subject, the district is also the largest landowner in the county. Is the land being managed well?
The land is ostensibly being managed well by just the virtue of the number of rangers that are on the hill chasing down dog walkers and joggers and such. When it comes to the expansive size of it and the amount of undergrowth and fire fuel, I'd have to say it's not being managed as well as it could. The amount of dry fuel in the summertime is starting to become a little bit excessive, and we need to figure out ways to engage our communities to assist with reduction of that fire load. We need to work with local agencies, as is being done currently, to mitigate the fire danger as much as we possibly can. But from an overall standpoint, there's not much to say as far as how effectively well or poorly it's being managed at the moment.
Thank you. Cynthia?
I would say we are managing our watershed extraordinarily well. Marin Municipal Water District has 190,000 consumers and manages 22,000 acres of watershed. That makes us highly unusual. We have entered into a partnership with the other 3 land management agencies on Mount Tam. We're bringing all kinds of resources in to protect to address not only fire risk, but to protect our biodiversity. We're an extraordinarily diverse ecosystem and biosphere, and we have a huge responsibility to the public to maintain that. And I think we're doing actually a terrific job. Nothing is perfect. I'm not saying we can touch every single acre, but addressing watershed stewardship is our fundamental mission, because it is because we have such an amazing watershed that is so well protected with such little development. It's a huge part of why our water quality is so extraordinary and regularly exceeds all state federal standards, as well as is clean from the perspective of contaminants that aren't even required to be maintained. So yes, we've got rangers out there to make sure that the mountain isn't loved to death. And I do think that's part of what makes us a very unusual water agency. Most water agencies that own their own watershed don't allow any recreation, no access at all. We've got people biking, fishing, hiking, and we are doing our best to balance those competing uses. And I think we're actually doing a great job.
Thank you. So Cynthia, we're going to start kind of a different subject now. Are the water rates fair and sufficient?
Are they fair and sufficient? I would say they're definitely fair. I mean, that is a struggle for all water agencies, is to make sure they are fair. Even in Marin, which is often tagged as being affluent, fairly, we do have communities that do struggle. Marin, more than most water agencies, according to an EPA report, has larger and more comprehensive assistance for struggling consumers and those with medical and other disabilities that require them to use water beyond what you would normally expect. I believe the rates are fair. We have tiered rates to make sure that we are sending a price signal so that those who are consuming more than others are paying for those increments at higher rates. I think that is appropriate. Recently, we restructured our rates because what we found is that in our efforts to ensure that we were sending a price signal, people at the lower end, which really is about 60-65% of all of our consumers are in Tier 1, they actually were not covering the cost of service. This concept of paying more for less really is a misnomer. Nobody is paying more for less. You are paying more you're paying for exactly the distribution system that's necessary to get the water to you. Water is not like melons. You're not paying for the water that comes out of your faucet. You're paying for the service to get it to your faucet. And in that respect, it is always going to be, we're always going to have higher fixed costs than variable costs. So we now have a rate structure, well, I think our rate structure before was fair, but what we have done now is gotten it closer to the actual cost of service for everybody in the different tiers. So yes, I would say it's fair.
Okay. Joby.
Well, the rates are what the rates are. As the water that comes out of your faucet is essentially free, what you are paying for is the cost to get that water to your faucet. Being that it is primarily a service organization, 80% of the costs to get that water to your faucet are through employment costs. And I think that that's where we've missed the ball a little bit, is that we haven't been really focusing on where we can find some efficiencies. Our rate of pay is a little on the higher side when I look at some of the jobs. One of the jobs I was recently checking out was that of the maintenance 2 worker, which in the property management world is about the same as a maintenance 2 worker. This particular job pays between $96,000 and $115,000 a year with benefits. In the private world, I would hire somebody at that particular level of skill and responsibility at about $45,000 to $60,000 a year, plus maybe about 25% load. Still substantially less. So I think what it is that we have to start looking at what the costs are to deliver this beautiful fresh water that we have on the mountainside. And we really need to start communicating better to our ratepayers of why the costs are going up and what they are really paying for, because most people associate it with the amount of water that comes out of their faucet.
Thank you. So Joby, could there be savings and increased efficiency if MMWD were to merge with North Marin Water District?
Obviously, when it comes from an operational standpoint, if you're combining management and supervisorial roles, there's unquestionably going to be a savings, because you don't need to have 2 people doing the same job in one large district as you do with 2 smaller districts. So I believe that there would be an enormous savings when we were to look at some of the top line issues. Then we're going to get into some of the lower line issues. We will need to have more people who are out in the field to take care of and maintain these structure and systems. So I don't know that there's going to be any savings with that, because I don't know that you could reduce headcount there at all. But there would be an increase in the amount of infrastructure outlay if we were to merge with them. Without having seen their budget, I don't know how effectively we could merge their budget with ours to see if there would be any opportunity to have cost savings, unless I have all of the information in front of me.
Thank you. Cynthia.
The question of merger has come up periodically. It's difficult to know if there would be cost savings. I doubt it, having watched both districts now for the last 14 years or so. In general, MMWD's annualized rates, and I'm just looking at the numbers for annual residential charges, is right around $700 a year. North Marin's is higher, well over $800. So that's just a place to start. It's hard to know what would really be saved if we did merge. I will say that in terms of if we're looking for cost savings and efficiencies, I think Joby and I do disagree about this. Marin municipal water staff are paid right around $95,000 a year on average for non-management. Our non-management staff, our management team, averages at around $125,000. So I do not believe the evidence supports his suggestion that our folks are overpaid. To the contrary, they are right in the middle of the last time that we did a survey of comparable salaries. And in fact, and I can only say this anecdotally, my staff complains bitterly that other water agencies are constantly picking off people. We'll hire somebody, a bright young person right out of school, train them up, and then they will often go to other water agencies in the Bay Area that pay higher. The vast majority of people who work at MMDD are incredibly professional. They do an amazing job. They show up when water mains break, when there's emergencies, and most of them can't even afford to live in the district. So I think we're paying our people exactly right.
Okay, Cynthia, could MMWD increase its supply by enlarging its reservoirs?
The short answer to that is no. This issue comes up periodically. Long before I joined the board in the 80s, I think I was in college when this happened, the water district raised Peters Dam, which backs up our largest lake, and as a result, we wound up we are under an order from the State Water Board, which controls water resources in the state. Our permits are from the State Board, and we need to release a great deal of, well, I don't want to say a great deal of water. We are required legally to release water to keep our endangered fisheries in shape. So we have other options for increasing our water supply reliability, but we have examined exhaustively the issue about raising dams, and given that we share these streams with the natural world, that is really not an option for us. That said, there are any number of things that we can be doing to increase our water supply, and as I mentioned earlier, we are now using actually more than 10,000 acre-feet less water than we were projected to be using when I first joined the board. So we are making tremendous strides there, and we have not yet even begun to really make an effort to invest in other distributed infrastructure, such as changing out our lawns, investing in irrigation controllers, smart irrigation controllers, and the like. So, I don't want to suggest that we should be complacent. There's a lot we need to do, but raising the dams is not our best option.
Okay, Joby.
I am in disagreement with raising dams. I believe that, as Cynthia said, that we do need to look out for our brother and sister species that rely on the water release to maintain basically the cycle of life. We have salmon stocks that are under pressure, we have trout stocks that are under pressure, and everywhere along the ecosystem, they rely on a historical flow of water that was there well before we started damming up these areas to save the water. Where we really need to do is to refocus our codes so that we are not really looking for the need to have greater supply brought to the houses, but better usage and more efficient usage, better collection at the site with cisterns, better use of gray water, better use of recycled water, not adding more dams and more constraints to the flow of the water downstream.
Thank you. Joby, we're going to start with you again, I think. Yes. Everyone's worried about climate change. Is the district working hard enough on these issues?
My concern is that it's not. We need a 10 to 20 year plan to understand where we're going and to be budgeting and forecasting the worst case scenario. We need to be looking at a 20% reduction in collectible water and then planning all of our strategies around that reduction of collection. We also need to communicate very effectively to our ratepayers of why these costs are going to be passed on to them, because without having an amount of local collection in their cisterns, without having the ability for them to understand that the water that they continue to conserve is going to continue to get more and more expensive due to overhead with labor and infrastructure, we just have to make sure that we are following through and ensuring that we are prepared for a much, much drier climate.
Cynthia.
I'm surprised by Joby's response because, in fact, MMWD has led the state as far as water districts that are addressing climate change. The first year that I joined the water district, we were the first water agency, I believe, in the country, not just California, to adopt the ICLEI protocol to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, and we have already met that target of reducing our GHG emissions below our 1990 levels by, I believe it's 15%. We also have an energy plan in place specifically to increase our commitment to reducing our GHG, and have invested in solar and hybrid and electric vehicles. It's a fairly extensive plan, so I'm surprised by that. I would also say but the main way that we are addressing climate change is through our long-term planning to, again, increase resilience in the face of drought, and which will increase and become more severe in light of climate change. So I would say that anybody who has spent time at the district, has been to our agendas, has looked at what we're talking about, would know that we are in fact very focused on climate change. The commitment to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, in fact, was one of the first issues that I brought to the board and was successful in obtaining a 5-0 vote. So I am proud of that accomplishment, and I'm proud that we are continuing to be a leader in addressing climate change mitigation and adaptation in Marin County.
Thank you. Okay, Cynthia, what cost savings and cost control measures would you propose?
Sure. So not to beat this horse, but I'll go there once more. The most significant thing that we can do to contain costs is to invest in efficiency. By doing so, we are delaying or avoiding entirely the need to invest in costly new infrastructure. And as I said earlier, we have saved tens of millions in operating and capital costs by going in that direction. The other things that we can do are continuing the things that we have done. We have actually reduced staff from a high of I want to say 70, I think was right around there. We are now down to 245. That's not only saved us operational costs, but it has also reduced our long-term pension liability. There's also any number of operational changes that we can and need to continue to make. So for example, last year or possibly the year before, we restructured our debt, saving right around $3 million. With the water utilities are complex. They're actually not that comparable to private businesses. It's not as simple as let's just cut the budget here or there. There's any number of things that we need to do because we are talking about a vital resource that addresses everybody's health and safety. So we need to make sure that we are sufficiently funded to carry out that job as well as our watershed protections. And of course we have workers who need to be paid an appropriate wage for the work that they do. So I think that the district has done an extraordinary job of cutting costs. I hear about it constantly from the staff that there are more things they'd like us to spend money on, and we've done a great job of keeping costs down, which is why we have been able to keep rates below the rate of inflation for the entire period that I've served on the board.
Joby.
I am surprised to hear the statement about how the operational costs have been cut somewhere, because I've looked through the last 5 years of budget and I haven't seen any reduction of costs. So that said, being that this is a service business, there's always going to be some overhead with delivering the costs. Do we modernize? Do we have things that we can do that can reduce the amount of cost to deliver the bills to people? Are we effectively looking at technology to bring down the costs so that we're not sending out a person in a truck to read meters all the time when this can be collected via electronics collection measures? Are we really looking at and having an honest discussion with our employees about, look, we need to honor the promises we've made in the past as far as pension and fringe benefits, but are we doing our best to talk to them about having the ability to make promises we can keep in the future with these costs in mind? We really need to be taking a hard look at how much we want to tell our ratepayers they're going to have to pay on a monthly basis with delivering of this water, and we need to clearly communicate this. Thank you.
Thank you. And so here's our final question. Joby, what do you consider to be the district's top priorities?
Fire fuel load reduction, 100%. We are facing a climate that is drying out, and we've seen the dangers that exist from the North Bay fires. I've seen it personally right down the street from me. We really need to be doing a lot of focus on reducing this fire load across the mountain, because it not only will endanger our homes and our safety, but it also endangers the clean water that we've come to expect with the residue from wildfires. So we need to really be focusing on, and as much as we can, and I know that I will be told that they have been focusing on it, but we still need to do better. We need to do better as far as reducing the fire load on the side of the mountain and around the watershed so that we can reduce the opportunity for wildfire to overrun our communities.
Thank you. Cynthia.
So my top priorities are first to be delivering clean, safe, healthy, reliable supplies. That means investing in our infrastructure and efficiency. Next, we need to be continuing to do all that we can and more to steward our extraordinary watershed, which is the primary source of our clean water supply, not to mention this amazing resource for the community. And third, Joby and I agree about fire. In fact, it's such a priority of mine that I have actually been endorsed by the Marin County Professional Firefighters Association, which I think is a testament to the strength of my commitment and leadership on that issue.
Thank you. So that concludes our questions. Before the candidates make their closing statements, here's some useful information about the election. Election day is Tuesday, November 6th. If you wish to register to vote, or if you've moved since the last time you voted and need to re-register, you may register anytime online, or you may mail in your change as long as it is postmarked by October 22nd. Vote by mail requests must be received no later than October 30th. If you go to the League's Voters Edge website at votersedge.org/CA, that's votersedge.org/CA, enter your street address and zip code, you'll be able to see your own ballot with links to the candidates, issues, ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. And now the candidates will make closing statements of 2 minutes, and we will start with Joby.
Thank you. First, again, thank you again for hosting us and giving us the opportunity to express our views on various issues and answer some very thoughtful questions. Though I don't have the experience on the board that my competitor does, I do have the 20 years of running multi-$100-million budgets and running staffs of over 200 people. I would like to use that experience that I've had in the real estate world to better serve the ratepayers of Marin. I really look to do, first and foremost, delivery of clean, safe water. That is job one. Secondly, though, we have to work on fire fuel load reduction. It is so important that we really address the potential dangers that exist, that not only to our safety, but also to our water around the mountain. Thirdly, the cost to get the budget done is something we really need to take a hard look at to see if and where there's opportunity for us to save some money so that we can tell our ratepayers that when they're paying their bill, we have done everything we can to ensure that their bills are as low as they possibly can be with the delivery of that clean, safe water and the reduction of the fire fuel load. Thank you.
Cynthia.
Thank you. We are extraordinarily blessed with a water supply in this community that is reliable, is local, and is something that we can control here at home. But we do need experts to be engaged and running this water district. It's not enough to say, I think we can save money someplace. There are complexities to running anything, but a utility is a particularly unusual and complicated organism. We are balancing any number of competing requirements, legal, ethical, and others. And in order for us to continue to have the success we've had in providing this resource to homes, we need people on the board who have experience, who have expertise, and who have a commitment to the community. One thing that I can say, in addition to all the other things that have been said so far today, is I'm somebody who shows up. I am there at almost every single meeting, and I have been for 14 years. My opponent, I don't believe, has ever attended a meeting, or at least not one that I recall, has not been involved in our volunteer efforts, has not been engaged in our 2-year rate restructuring committees. There are lots and lots of opportunities for people to participate with MMWD, and we are blessed to have a community that is engaged. And I think it is important to have people that have taken the time, made the effort to learn the issues, and who have expertise and a commitment to seeing the community continue to be able to provide clean, safe, reliable water and protect our amazing resources and watershed. Once again, I have been honored to serve this community for the last 14 years. I have loved doing this work. I hope I have a chance to continue to do so. So let me once again thank you and ask for your support on November 6th.
Thank you. And that concludes our forum. Thank you to the candidates for participating, to Robin Dietrich, our timekeeper, and to you for watching and voting.